Okay, here in 1.2, we'll look at the plurality method. So just one possible method of how you can determine the winners in these elections. And so it's a really simple one. The candidate with the most first place votes, called the plurality candidate, wins. So all that matters is first place votes. Now in this, the preference ballot probably doesn't make sense to even ask people to do, because if only the first place vote counts, then it seems kind of insincere to ask people what's their second choice or what's their third choice. So in plurality, the only thing that matters is first place votes. The vast majority of elections are like this because it's simple, and especially when they give you one choice, you know this is how they're going to count it. But it has a lot of drawbacks. It's simple, and that's about all that's good about it. It doesn't do a good job on preference schedules, and we'll show you some of the drawbacks in one of the examples. So the one that we just did in 1.1 in the table, we had A got 14 first place votes, B got 4, C got 11. Remember, C had those 10 people had the one ballot, and one person had a different looking ballot, but they both had C first, so that's how they got 11. D had 8 first place votes, so if we were trying to do even a full ranking, A is first, C is second, D is third, and B is fourth. Okay, so what's nice about this is that there's no crazy procedure. It's simple, but we'll see an example where it might not do a good job accurately reflecting the wishes of the people who voted. So if there's more candidates, you could also have somebody win who doesn't get a majority. So if you have 4 candidates and the votes are pretty evenly spread, say if one person got 26% and everyone else got just under 25%, the 26% person would win, so they'd be nowhere near the majority. In our math club, one example of that is that it would take 19 first place votes out of 37 to get a majority, and A, who only had 14 first place votes, won. So you don't have to get anywhere near 50%. Okay, so here's a fun example. The same school, apparently, has a very good marching band, and they've been invited to a bunch of different bowl games, so they have to decide which one they would like to go to. So they have the Rose Bowl, which they're going to do with R, or in California, right? The Hula Bowl in Hawaii. I don't remember where the Fiesta Bowl is. I think it's in Arizona. The Orange Bowl's in Florida. And the Sugar Bowl, I know we looked this up once. I think it's New Orleans. Anyways, they get to decide, these 100 members of the band, where they want to go perform, because they can only pick one of them. Alright, so here's their preference schedule. So thank God they didn't just give us 100 ballots to look through. So if we're looking at the preference schedule, 49 people put Rose Bowl first, Hula Bowl second, Fiesta third, Orange Bowl, and Sugar Bowl. So they had Rose Bowl first, and so if we're doing plurality, notice all that matters is who got the most first place votes. So it looks like the Rose Bowl got the most first place votes. So that means the Rose Bowl got first in this election. The Hula Bowl, so Hawaii, got the second most first place votes. So notice it doesn't matter what they put for second, actually. So the Hula Bowl is their second choice, and then Fiesta Bowl got 3 first place votes, and so that'd be your full ranking, because after that, no one put any of these other ones in first. Okay, but now let's look at this like realistically. Do you think that most people would be happy if they ended up going to the Rose Bowl? So let's look at the overall ballot, because we did have a preference, right? So these people put Rose Bowl first, but these other 48 plus 3, so what, 52 people here, 51 people? So more people actually put Rose Bowl last than put them first. But under plurality, since all we count is first place votes, Rose Bowl would technically win. So what else on here looks like it could have been a better choice if we're just kind of trying to just logic it out? There's no reason we have to use plurality. We didn't say we were doing that in the beginning. They're just using this as an example of why plurality sometimes isn't a great method. So only 48 people, so one less person put Hawaii or hula bowl as their first choice. But see how everybody else put the hula bowl as their second choice? And so these people will be happy they got their first choice. These people would probably be moderately happy also they got their second choice. But if we go strictly with plurality and end up going to the Rose Bowl, we have 49 people who are happy and 51 people who are somewhat angry because that was their last choice. And so this is a really good example of plurality is simple because you're only counting first place votes, but a lot of times it really doesn't do the best job describing who the winner would be. So same thing we just talked about is there was 51 people who had that as their last choice versus 49, but since we're only counting first place choices under plurality, the Rose Bowl would win, but hula bowl is definitely a better choice. And so one other thing I want to look at is if they did head to head, meaning if they only gave you two choices, who would people have picked? So let's go back to the schedule so we can look at how they're going to do this. All right, so head-to-head, let's say, and we won't do all the head-to-head matchups, some of them are kind of more obvious than others, but let's say that Rose Bowl, let's say Rose Bowl, or let's do hula, because they're trying to show that that would go versus any, so I guess these are the two we care about. Let's do Rose Bowl versus hula bowl and a head-to-head matchup. Okay, so if head-to-head means that those are the only two choices, so none of the rest of this would be on here. So these people put Rose Bowl first, these people put hula bowl second. Then, if these are the only two choices, you can tell that these people would have put hula first and Rose Bowl second, because obviously by having this one first, they prefer this one over this one. If there hadn't been any other choices, the second place would be their last choice. And then this one, so if Fiesta Bowl is not a choice, and Sugar Bowl and Orange Bowl aren't a choice, what would they have done? Well, it looks like they preferred H over R, so they also would have went H and then R. So then we notice if we're trying to do plurality, there's 51 votes first for Hula Bowl and only 49 first for Rose Bowl. And so when they say head-to-head matchup, that's what they're doing is if those are the only two choices, what would people have done? Okay, so one other thing this shows an example of is what's called insincere voting, or strategic voting. So if you know that your candidate doesn't have a choice, what could you do? So let's say some of the band members started asking around, especially the ones who voted first for Fiesta Bowl, and they found out that no one else they talked to really seemed like they were going to put Fiesta Bowl first. It was everyone they talked to said either Rose or Hula Bowl. And so they thought, well, I'm going to change my vote because it doesn't seem like I can get my first choice anyways. Especially if this wasn't a preference and they're just doing plurality where only first place votes count. And so if they notice, hey, if I switch my ballot, maybe I can get a better chance. So let's see what would happen. So this was the original without anybody talking or cooperating or realizing that their vote maybe wasn't going to happen anyways because other people weren't voting for the same thing. So here was our original ballot. But then if these three people got kind of strategic and realized, I don't think Fiesta Bowl is going to win, and so then they switch their first choice to their second choice, then that all by itself could cause Hula Bowl to win versus Rose Bowl. So that's another reason why plurality is not a great method. It's easy because all you have to count up is the first place votes, but if only first place matters, some people might switch their second or third choice to first place because they're trying to be strategic about who they think might win. And so they have, it's kind of a while ago, but they have examples of this. You can see it otherwise when it comes to third-party candidates is if they have too small of a level of votes, and so people might like those candidates, they're not voting for them because they know they don't have a chance because of the entrenched two-party system. So neither here nor there whether we would like that to not be the case, but it's one of the problems with plurality, so it's nice that you can see that in real life. where knowing that only the first place vote counts makes people strategically vote for the one or two that they think have a chance of winning. So plurality is the only one you have for homework, and the tiebreakers, they'll come up with a different rule sometimes for tiebreakers, but the tiebreaker has nothing to do with plurality. You could make up any rule. So plurality means you count only the first place votes. Then if there's a tie, you could flip a coin. Or let's say you use plurality, you only count the first place votes, but then if there's a tie, you see who got the fewest last place votes. Or you try the head-to-head matchup like we did in that one. So they'll come up with different rules for ties, but none of those specifically are tied to plurality. Plurality means only the first place votes count. You kind of get to decide, or the homework questions sometimes get to decide, what should we do in case of a tie. And so to keep it interesting, they'll put different scenarios for ties. And we'll see more of them in the homework help or example videos.